saying that indeed, it's a really huge wave energetically. You've heard about it in many different forums. You've heard about it in many different languages. It's really about knowing and developing practices that will help you stay centered. Understanding that showing up for this moment is all about meeting this moment, meeting yourself and meeting the world, meeting all living beings with integrity. He said this is so much about integrity. So he's saying that with the Ascended Masters, we celebrate your true self. A lot of the time, you don't. And so really what we're trying to do here, we're helping you so that that gap in awareness is smaller rather than larger. The practices are essential, and the practices will support you in your mission to show up with integrity. So he's saying right now, in terms of showing up in truth, he's saying this is where one of the warehouses, you can say, or warehousing systems that we have is addiction. And addiction is a huge part of the culture. It manifests in many, many different forms. And he's saying this is really an opportune time to look at those tendencies, to look at those attachments, to look at those habits, whatever they are, and kind of look at where you're at and see if you can kind of, with the wisdom you now have, if you can meet that aspect of the self with even more compassion than in the past and even more resources than you've ever had, because you've changed, but also the energy is with you to really clear out any source of white noise in your system. You're not only capable of seeing with clarity what is, but you're going to be able to see with clarity what can be. And the power of that is, of course, we know with athletes going to the Olympics, or right, so much of the game is their visualization. That's why they all have psychological and right trainers and whatnot. It's what's going on in the mind is the biggest part of the game, and their capacity to visualize and imagine what can be. And the energy is very strong. He's coming in and he's saying, it's there. It's already there. Harmony is there already. It's not like we're in, like dissonance as a reality is like a concrete thing that then we move toward harmony. He's saying inherent in the dissonance is the harmony. Inherent in, right, your addiction, or inherent in whatever areas in which you're not optimally functioning, inherent in you is harmony. To tap into the heart and to connect to those two antennas and to then engage in a process of cleansing, we do need to move. We need practices. We need the Qigong and the Tai Chi and the Yin Yoga and the walks with the dog in the forest, in nature. We need to move in relationship to nature. This is the best way to support ourselves and to allow ourselves to clean those engines and to be engaged. So it's not happening. He's saying you're not sitting on a chair thinking about this. He's saying you're going to be cleansing the instrument via these practices, these ancient practices. There's so many around the world. whatever it is for you. So this idea that we're powerless to make changes across the world when we want a war to end over there or whatever, no, you're in it. We're all in it. And whatever you're doing, you're building the momentum. You're helping create that energy field that is moving into that level of combustion, right? That is necessary for a release of that layer that's inauthentic, a release and disintegration of that layer. It comes from underneath, and that underneath is what we are all part of right now. And the more it rises, the more that top layer, right, will collapse. It always comes down to the fact that we are a sacred tree. We are living beings that go through a generative cycle. We do move from a time like now for many of you where the tree is losing its leaves. We're going to go within, we're going to be pregnant with the birth of the spring and then move through a whole cycle toward a harvest. And a harvest that we share inherently. That energy of life that comes off your tree in the form of the fruit or the nut or whatever is what is shared with all. That's the system. Like, that's how life functions. So you can't be in the forest looking at, standing there in your own tree, looking at the other trees and going, well, what are you doing? You're your tree, like you're busy, right? Like, just be your tree and move through all those cycles, the regenerative cycle of nature, and moving toward your harvest and the joy of then sharing that harvest. Many blessings.